Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. As Ukraine continues to navigate the complex realities of a full-scale war with Ukrainian cities enduring heavy drone attacks on an everyday basis, the latest in Kyiv, the diplomatic efforts continue, at least on one side. Following the talk between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky, the status of U.S. arms deliveries for Ukraine remains unclear. So let's check the latest from Ukraine and on peace negotiations with Tymofiy Mylovanov, former Ukrainian Minister of Economic Development and currently the president of Kyiv School of Economics. Good evening, sir, and thank you for coming to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
So let's perhaps start with the latest night address from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky following his conversation with Great Britain Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
Today I also discussed several options with UK Prime Minister Starmer. The UK, together with Germany and other partners, is currently maintaining the functionality of the Ramstein format. In August-September, we expect new steps from this format to strengthen Ukraine's resilience.
So what kind of help can we expect from the Ramstein format?
Ukraine needs air defense and also needs funding to produce or buy weapons it can produce in large quantities at maybe at lower cost. Because one problem is that the war is evolving and the type of technology which is needed right now is very, very different which was needed, let's say, even several weeks ago. This all moved into drones and the drones are evolving very quickly. And this, as you have seen, hundreds of Shaheds at night, sometimes 500. So it is impossible to intercept them with very costly Patriot missiles or even very costly air defense. So we need drones which intercept drones. So there is an arms race in innovation. But we also need air-to-air missiles, missiles we can put on F-16s, we can put on other platforms to sort of strike relatively deep or at least deeper in the territory where Russian military amasses troops or amasses or prepares for assaults or even has launch pads. So all of that Great Britain can provide, the US can provide, and Europe can provide, or it can purchase from the United States.
I was going to ask you who can provide this kind of ammo, because apparently Russia is has very diversified its own arm supply and in its buying and acquiring arms from North Korea, Africa, right? From China, Iran.
Correct.
So how about Ukraine?
So there is a very unified coalition behind Russia. In some way, they are testing the technologies. In particular, China is testing the technology. It's very well understood in the United States, but we see the geopolitical or diplomatic frictions with the United States between Ukraine, with recent stop to the military supplies. So one avenue or one mechanism that Europeans and Ukrainians are exploring is to purchase from the United States, maybe not get it as a grant, as a gift, but basically get it, buy it. Another element of this is to produce, well, not everything can be produced in Ukraine. Patriots cannot be produced in Ukraine, but produce some new technology, some cheaper drones, but have Europe finance that or help finance it.
So it looks like the US is able, but is unwilling somehow. We have heard Donald Trump lately saying that he's very disappointed with Putin, but at the same time, his actions don't match the words. So what is the current status now of the arm deliveries?
So I've spoken with some insiders, well, not high-rank insiders, but sort of rank-and-file insiders in the United States, and they often give a vibe or a mood, and sometimes it's much more informative than talking to, reading the news or getting whispers from, top politicians. So it's a trying balloon. It's another one. We have seen the stop of military aid. We have seen that before with intelligence stop. early in the year, which was reversed. The expectation here is similar, that it's going to be reversed. There is indeed a conversation that maybe Patriots is not, the only way to go forward. That has to be some innovation to intercept at least drones and maybe some lower level missiles from Russia. So there is that kind of discussion. And the third type of angle or discussion or frame on this is that even the United States administration is not homogeneous. There is an isolationist camp, and there is a very more classic national security or even China threat camp, and people disagree there. And some are for supporting Ukraine, testing weapons, learning, looking at Ukraine as a partner, even within the administration. Others are, let's just pull out from Ukraine completely.
So given the volatility of the US administration's decision, one can expect any possible change, right, at any point. So how long, because this is important, how long can Ukraine hold out without American weapons?
Well, Ukraine can hold out. It's just people will die. Many more people will die without American weapons. It's unlikely that the dynamics will change. We can talk about the rate of territories, but even at this rate of Russia taking over territories, they need something like 100 years to get to Kyiv. So, it's not that, we see a lot of death, a lot of violence, very intense fights, but we see very little movement and momentum on the front lines. And I've been to brigades, I've been to the Army Corps, which are being formed now from top brigades, and what appears to be that these brigades, they are holding up and their morale is much higher than that of civilians. Mm-hmm. So what Russia is currently doing is waging almost a psychological terror, not just terror, but a psychological pressure, continuous, consistent pressure on civilians. Because, at the Kyiv School of Economics, for example, we have 500 faculty and staff, and after a night of bombing, they're resilient, but they're not functional. And then if it happens a couple of days in a row, then everyone goes in that kind of mood that they need a couple of days to recover. So we're thinking about sending people out on 2-day vacation so they can simply sleep. So the pressure is on civilians rather than military. I mean, it's not true to say that it's not on military. Military is dying every day, but and they are holding their ground. So Ukraine can hold, but people will die without the U.S. support.
We hear those appeals to close the skies over Ukraine. Do you think that it's even possible?
It is possible. I think it's a sort of a it's actually a travesty. It's a moral complacency of institutions and some politicians. It's just like, I don't want to be non-constructive, and I don't want, the world is what it is. I mean, this is awful what's happening in Ukraine. People are dying, but it is what it is, And so, but with a little bit of leadership, with a little bit of unity, with a little bit of economic support, this war could have been prevented or could have been stopped or could be stopped now. It's in the end, it's a contact sport on the ground. It's a robot against robot. It's drone against drone. It's an infantry against infantry, and it's resource against resource. So the West, the United West, Europe has way more resources than Russia has and can put Russia in place, but simply politicians are a little bit afraid to do it.
So we're waiting until September, August, right? This momentum that Volodymyr Zelensky is speaking about. We'll see about that. But talking about leadership, you've just mentioned that. We've heard also some possibilities of reshuffle in Ukrainian government.
Yeah, so
also about the position in Washington, in ambassador of Ukraine to the US.
Correct. Correct. I've spoken to some perceived candidates even today as I was driving from Ukraine to Warsaw. On my way to the Ukraine Recovery Conference in Rome. So there is a Ukrainian delegation, and if you kind of read the political tea leaves, you will be able to see who is a likely candidate. So the rumor has it, and there are tons of speculations, and no one can say anything until it's done, that there will be a reshuffle, this time for real, unlike in the previous attempts. And it's because the government is exhausted. It's not that they're bad people or good people, but simply people have been working 24/7, little sleep. So, you know, there'll be a new prime minister, there'll be a couple of new ministers, some people will stay, there are several candidates, and yeah, there are rumors that the ambassador to the US will change as well.
Do you think, because we've just heard the latest poll by Levada, do you think that Vladimir Putin could take into account the latest polls saying that only 31% of Russians want the war to continue?
That's correct. And also some of the other polls, even the state polls, not Levada. Levada is much more respected. Has some state-run polls asked recently for what's the percentage of people are willing to fight. And it's once again, it's a state-run poll. And the numbers are in low 20s. So people are tired in Russia of the war. People do not want to fight. But I still think Vladimir Putin has enough cannon fodder to be able to continue to run this war for a while. What I think is real constraint on him is that first domestic politics, not at the lower level, but sort of lieutenants around him. But we see that some sneaky things are happening. Today or yesterday, a minister of transportation was dismissed and immediately was found shot in his Tesla, and then another deputy head of the department sort of stood up allegedly and fell dead in a meeting at the government. So, you know, when you retire from the Russian government, often it means death. And so the fact that this is happening means not everything is clean there. And these people have been accused of corruption or embezzlement on defense, actually, in Kursk area, which is a signal that they don't have enough resources. Because if they had enough resources, both for war and corruption, they wouldn't be killing each other.
And shortly, as we have to wrap up, so where do you see the hope for ending of this conflict? So internally, within Russia? Externally, from the pressure from outside?
So I think what we know from Russia, from history of Russia, is that power changes hands in Russia. We can't predict when and how, but it's usually unexpected and very brutal, but it does change. So that will happen one day. Will it happen tomorrow? No one can predict that, maybe unlikely. I think the US administration still has the leverage to be able to talk to Russia and sort of bring it to a ceasefire, maybe not a formal peace, but to a ceasefire. That's realistic, but that requires leverage in Ukraine's ability to defend itself. So the combination of supporting Ukraine to make sure that the front lines are not moving, and political pressure and sort of big talk or big pressure from Trump administration can de facto freeze the conflict.
Tymofiy Mylovanov, thank you so much for coming to the studio. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for your insights. And thank you for watching World Talks. And please stay tuned to TVP World for more commentaries, news from Ukraine and the region. See you soon.